If you would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be a self-published author, I'd call you crazy. But now that that's a reality, I want to show you how I went from this to this. So let's dive right into it. Now, you want to write and publish a book. So where do you start? Before even thinking about publishing, you got to come up with an idea and brainstorm. So how do you do that if you're struggling? Personally, what I like to do is I like to draw from my life. So take the successes, the struggles, the good, the bad, and write it all down. Put it into different categories, and then attach that to what genre you're interested in writing in, and take it from there. There's a couple other ways you can do it, but personally that's what I like to do so that the themes that I'm talking about can be consistent when I'm writing throughout any genre. Okay, step 2. Now that you've got that award-winning idea, what do you do next? Well, you may or may not plan. There's 3 ways to go about your book. You could be a planner, someone who outlines their entire book before they put pen to paper on their first draft. You could be a pantser, who doesn't make an outline for their book and kind of lets their character take control of their own story. Or you could be a mix of both, which is a planster. You might have some sort of outline or guidance for your book, but you still let your creative juices flow. No matter which way you choose, make sure that it fits your book and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, this next step isn't really a step, more so a tip for overcoming writer's block. Writer's block is something that every writer will face, so if you're going through this, don't worry, there will be a way out. Now, a few ways I like to go about this. 1, I like to listen to music. I listen to music while I'm writing, but if I ever have writer's block, sometimes I just step away from my laptop and just listen to music. And I try to listen to songs that capture the emotion that I'm trying to write about that I'm currently blocked on. So that's one tip. Another tip, step away from your laptop. Take a walk, exercise, do something to get your mind off your story, because tired writing isn't always the best writing, nor should you force it. Lastly, another thing I like to do is reread what I've written. I like to go up a few pages or chapters and really see what my story is, what I'm missing, what plot holes there are, so I can get more connected with my story. Okay, step 3. Now you figured out the way that you're going to go about planning your book. What do you do now? You write your first draft. Now, for a lot of writers, this can be daunting at first because you might get caught up with the voices in your head telling you this isn't a good story. But trust me, you gotta keep writing and persevering through. And don't worry so much about editing because you're meant to have a first draft and your first draft will not be perfect. Just accept that. Okay, now for step 4. It's time to edit. Congrats on finishing your first draft. You're already halfway through the process. Now, before you run and go buy an editor to do developmental editing, proofreading, or line editing, you need to edit your book yourself. You need to go in, see if the story's flowing the way that you want it to. Do your own proofreading and just get a little more closure with your story. Then you can go out and find an editor. But that leads me to the next step. So step 5. It's officially time to start thinking about publishing. Now, when I said that editing is going to tie into this, it depends on the type of publishing that you're going to do. So there's 2 types. You've got self-publishing and traditional publishing. Now, I'm a self-published author, which means that I had pretty much all the control over my book. But that also came with some additional costs like my cover and editing and other things like that. So note that if you're going to self-publish, you're going to have to take on a majority of the costs by yourself. Now, if you traditionally publish, then it's a little bit different. What you have to do is you have to find an agent who's going to help get your manuscript or, your book of what you've written, and you have to get an agent that will help you get your manuscript into a publishing house. And once you get that into a publishing house, you'll get a down payment for your book, which can range depending on the type of book that you have. And they will cover the editing, your cover, and your marketing. However, with that, you lose some of the creative control that you would have with self-publishing. So figure out what will work best for your book and if it will affect your wallet or not. Okay, now the last step. However, it's important to note that this step needs to be implemented throughout all the other steps that I talked about. And what is that? Marketing. Now, whether you self-publish or traditionally publish, marketing should be consistent throughout. And what I mean by that is when you're writing your first draft, when you're brainstorming, when you're thinking about your cover, when you're editing, whatever step you're in when you're writing your book, market it, make a video, talk about it online so that you can engage readers. And I say this because I made that mistake when I was trying to self-publish my book. I was consumed by the fear that I might not publish my book, so I waited until I actually held it in my hand. And I realized that was a big mistake because no one knew about my book. I didn't have an audience or anything, so it took me a while to build up a following that would be interested in reading my book. So make sure that whatever step you're in, you're consistently letting your audience and readers know about what you have going on in your life. So that's how to write and publish a book. Now, if you're still struggling, I have a podcast called What Don't You Know, where I'll be diving into these steps further. Another great resource is to look at Reedsy because they have industry workers who are knowledgeable on all of these steps as well. And lastly, just look at TikTok and YouTube and other platforms where writers and authors are sharing their stories like myself. I hope you enjoyed this video and good luck on your writing journey. This was how to write and publish a book.